Greetings. I thought I would send out a video that does a bit of a seasonal or a season review, and then talk a little about next year, and then talk a little bit about ahead of the Charles. Now, a seasonal review, I don't think it's a good idea for me to go down men's, women's, novice, varsity, JV, and go through every single crew and find the strengths and the weaknesses and where they did well and where they didn't do well. I just don't think that is productive, because results change from regatta to regatta and from team to team. So I'm not going to do that. I will just sum up what I think is important. Is a team is measured by its championship results. You could be an NFL football team and have an undefeated season. You lose a Super Bowl, it's a bad year, okay? So I look at the championship results. We went to the Dad Vales, and we had a varsity men's 4 and a varsity women's 4 medal. And, those are solid results, okay? And for the women's program, it's got to be 8 or 9 years in a row now. And for the men, that is the 4th time the varsity men's 4 has medaled, so we're starting to see some good results across the board. This year we went to Acros, and we brought 4 crews, and all 4 crews made the grand finals. That was fantastic. That regatta is out of hand, and it's a regatta that we're going to be going in the future, and I'll talk about that in the fall. But congratulations. Not only did we have 2 crews medal, or 4 crews made the finals, so 2 crews medaled, we also won the women's small boat all points trophy. So those are just good results, and I'm very happy about that. Now, next year, working out. When we talk about working out, I think that 3 things come to mind. Practice time, okay? Training duration, and training intensity. Now, I cannot ask you all to have longer practice times. I can't ask you to come to practice 4 hours a day. I can't do that. You don't have the time. Excuse me, and I don't think it's necessary. Training duration, however, if you sat down and thought about the time that you left your dorm, walked to the Fine Arts Center, got your ride down to the boathouse, went to the boathouse, moved the equipment, got on the water, and you added all that time up, right? And then you added the time in turning the boats around, sitting, waiting, and then you looked at the time that you actually spent in a specific training zone, all right, at a desired training intensity. I bet it's 2, 3, might even be 4 to 1, all right? For every 1 minute of good, solid rowing, you might spend 3, 4, 5 minutes of doing nothing, okay? So your training duration, even though your practice time could have been 2.5 hours, your training duration might have been anywhere between 10 to 30 minutes, all right? So when you're saying you're training every day, or 6 days a week, that's true. But time spent in a desired training intensity is measured in minutes, not in hours, okay? So we have got to increase our training duration, which is efficiency. And, that has never been a Lafayette strong suit, to be honest with you, not across the board. Some athletes, yes, but not across the board. If we don't improve training duration, we're just not going to be successful. So that is something that we have got to work on, and something that we've got to change. And we'll talk about that in the fall, of how we're going to achieve that. But training duration has got to be looked into and corrected. Training intensity. How hard do you work? Training intensity has got to be increased. Now, again, some crews were different. Some athletes were different, but in general, across the board, we've got to work harder. We've got to work harder. And working harder needs to be measured, okay? It needs to be held to a certain standard. Um, we did a lot of heart rate training, and we're going to move away from heart rate training, not across the board, okay? But we're not going to be locked into heart rate training like we have been in the past. So training intensity has to increase. You have to work harder. You have to suffer more and longer. Okay, that's just how it has to be. You have to be faster. You have to have more of aerobic conditions. You have to have higher anaerobic threshold. You have to have a higher pain tolerance. You know, we're just not training hard enough. Okay, and we're going to address that in the fall. So, how are we going to train? Well, first of all, we're going to be doing a lot more assessments. Okay, in the fall, 4Ks, in the spring, 2Ks. And I would say that these are going to be max tests, but you're going to be, it's nothing to be afraid of. You're going to know exactly where you should be, what you should be pulling, um, so that, and it's additional workout as well. But I'm going to be using these tests on the water as well as on land to then adjust your training intensity. For example, if you are a 7-minute 2K, okay, that's a 145. If you're going to do an aerobic workout on the erg, okay, if you just add 15 seconds to that, that's a 2-0, okay? Your aerobic split should never go above a 2-0, okay? You shouldn't be rowing at a 212, at a 215 if you're a 7-man erger. Your aerobic work, 2-0. And that is going to really push you to work harder. Now, if you can't hold a 2-0 for 30 minutes, you look at your average split at the end of 30 minutes, and let's say it's a 204, well then that becomes your new aerobic split, but not a 212, okay? So you're not gonna sit on the erg and row at 145 heart rate. You're not going to do that. I don't care what your heart rate is, okay? You're gonna do a 2K, you're gonna use that as an assessment tool to then establish your AT threshold and your aerobic training zones, okay? Now, we will monitor heart rates upon occasion, but it's not going to dictate your training intensities because for the most part, you're just not training hard enough. You're not training hard enough. And that's going to be on the water as well, you know, using impellers. When there's a good day, you know, we will assess our boat speed and we'll do a 2K, for example. And then if you're, same thing, if you're at a 150 split, you should be doing your aerobic work at a 205 or 202, you know? So it's all in proportion to your fitness level and also goals for boat speed. So we're gonna be really focusing on training hard, training efficiently, all right? So that we have real boat speed, that we know how to move a boat and how fast these boats really need to go, okay? Because you can't, if you're in a men's 4, for example, you can't be going up down the river at a 210 and expect to hop in the boat and go 138 for a 2K. It's not gonna happen, okay? So things are going to change. Practice time? No, I can't ask for any more. Training duration? Yes, we have to train in our training zones longer periods of time. At practice, that just means training efficiency. Training intensities, you've got to train harder. You have got to train harder. Now, are there going to be days when you go out there for recovery days and I say, I don't care what your splits are, and I might ask you, make sure your heart rate does not go above 150 or 160, okay? To keep your intensity low for recovery days, yes, we're going to do that. But you need to really look at what you're doing in terms of your intensity, measurable intensity on the erg and on the water if you want to win races, you got to go fast. You got to go fast, and you have to have proportionate speed. You know, if you're at it, your goals have a 145 2K split on the water. You know, you better be doing your aerobic work on the water at a 2.0. You know, a 158, a 2.0, depending on weather and stroke rating. But you understand that boat speed is something that has to happen every day at practice. Okay, so we're going to be really focusing on working harder. Now, yes, we'll have aerobic days. Don't misunderstand me. But a lot of you, your aerobic day is just too goddamn soft. Okay. Now there is an aerobic recovery day, absolutely, and that might be on your own time. Okay, but we need to start focusing on real boat speed, real power, real intensity, commitment. Some of you are going to be completely on board with what we're trying to do. In the past, the top tier varsity athletes would probably have 8 practices a week. All right. So, for example, if they rode in the morning on a Monday, they'd come back and do an afternoon workout on their own Monday afternoon because that's what they wanted to do. I never assigned it. That is just what they wanted to do. Now, I'm not going to ask you all to do that. I may schedule some additional aerobic work, certainly before the head of the Charles, and we'll talk about that in detail at another time. But I know that some of you maybe don't want to do that. There are other things that you want to do, but you want to be on the team, and that is completely okay. Now, I don't want to have labels. I don't want to have, I've done it before where I've had a competitive team and a development team and blah, blah, blah. You're on the team, you're on the team. You pay your dues, you submit your class schedule, then I am totally cool with you being on the team. If you want to come to practice 3 days a week and not on the weekends, I'm totally cool with that. I am. I want you on the team. And the days that you sign up for practice, I'm going to coach you, or Derek's going to coach you, or Amy's going to coach you. You're going to get coached. We're going to be, of course, training and rowing with athletes that have similar goals and level of commitment. Okay. So I don't want you to feel like, excuse me, I don't want you to feel like, well, the other things I want to do, I don't know if I want to be a full-time rower. Well, I don't blame you. That's okay. Go do other things. Stay on the team. Row. I love having you on as part of the program. However, if you're going to be a varsity rower, if you're going to be representing the fastest boat at Lafayette College, if it's a 4, it's a 4. If it's a pair, it's a pair. Okay, depending on how many athletes I have at that level. If you're going to be at that level, if you're going to be in that varsity boat, then you are going to train very, very hard. Okay. And if I see that you're not coming to practice, if I see that you're going home on the weekend and not coming to practice, if you're not submitting your assessment workouts, your 2Ks or your 4Ks, it's fine. And I know that you're not going to be considered for the varsity 4. You'd be in the JV 4, the second 4, the third 4, whatever you want to call it. Okay? So, just quickly review things. I thought it was another great year. I had a lot of fun, and I thought we did really well. I think that if we're going to do better, we have to make some changes. We don't have to have longer practices. However, we have to have a lot more efficient practices. We have to spend a lot more time in specific training zones. For example, your varsity men's 4, you're doing 8 to 10 laps aerobic work. You're doing 8 to 10 laps of aerobic work, okay? And if you're a women's 4, you're doing 6 to 8 laps, right? In order to get that work done, you need to get to the boathouse and get your ass on the water, right? And get going. Get to boat speed. Stay at boat speed. Okay, that's something that I have to make sure that you do that. And I'm getting old, and sometimes I feel bad, and I'm like, oh my God, they're so tired, and I know what they're doing outside of practice, but you know what? I have to be a little bit more old school Rick and just not give a fuck. Okay? And just put the screws to you. And just not put up with any bullshit and not feel sorry for you. Okay? Because in doing so, all I'm doing is enabling you to lose. And in the long run, that's not fair. So if you come to me and you're telling me you want to work hard and you want to be in that top boat, well, I'm going to push you. And if you can't handle it, then you got to get out of the way. Okay, and I got to fill your spot. And if one men's four is doing 10 laps and you're in a boat that's only doing 6, that's fine with me. I will coach you all equally. Okay? But there's got to be a change next year. There's got to be a change next year. And that intensity and the efficiency, which means the duration of the laps, the meters that we get in, that has got to change next year. And it's going to change next year. So you'll want to be ready for that. So that's a bit, I think it's good for right now. I will send out a video regarding Head of the Charles and what I'm looking for and what our options are going to be. And I may actually do that right now, but it'll be a separate video. So, and also I need to send out a training program. But for right now, just transition, go for light runs, and enjoy yourselves. So I miss you all terribly, of course. And I am, again, it was a great year. And I'm looking forward to next year. And I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks.